We are going to be in 2 Samuel. We're going to start in 2 Samuel chapter 16. I have brought my speaker in here because I know y'all get tired of hearing me talk. I was going to let somebody else talk, but it's quite fast, so we'll set all that up at this point. The title of this chapter in this book, The Good Lessons from Bad Guys, is Shimei. I've read it too, but it never really clicked. And it's a pretty interesting story when you tie it all together. But anytime I've ever read through the Old Testament, it's just like checking off the boxes of, oh yeah, I read the Bible. It didn't never really stop and focus on a lot of the stories or deep dive into it. So it's nice getting the opportunity to look at some of these stories and how they tie back into our lives, even to New Testament. 2 Samuel 16, verses 5 through 14 is what I'm going to read first. Amen. One of the troublemakers.
Wait, everybody's leaving on the fuse.
Huh?
Bad shape?
Huh?
They're in bad shape? Said everybody leaves the fuse?
No, there are a lot of people still, they won't let us clean the fuse.
You gotta keep them out sometime. 2 Samuel 16, verses 5 through 14. Is the other troublemaker coming?
Yeah, the other one's coming.
We pray for your marriage. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
We sang a song for you and everything.
We do.
Thank you, thank
No,
you.
I'm lying in church. I'm gonna be lying. We didn't sing.
I don't know how she put up for 45 years with me, but it's a blessing.
Praise God. It says Shimei, I'm reading out of the NLT, guys. It says Shimei curses David. As King David came to Bahurim, a man came out of the village cursing them. It was Shimei, son of Gera, from the same clan as Saul's family. He threw stone at the king and the king's officers and all the mighty warriors who surrounded him. Get out of here, you murderer, you scoundrel, he shouted at David. The Lord is paying you back for all the bloodshed in Saul's clan. You stole his throne, and now the Lord has given it to your son Absalom. At last, you will taste some of your own medicine, for you are a murderer. Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Abishai, son of Zeruiah, demanded. Let me go over and cut off his head. No, the king said. Who asked your opinion, you sons of Zeruiah? If the Lord has told him to curse me, who are you to stop him? Then David said to Abishai and to all his servants, my own son is trying to kill me. Doesn't this relative of Saul have even more reason to do so? Leave him alone and let him curse, for the Lord has told him to do it. And perhaps the Lord will see that I am being wrong and will bless me because of these curses today. So David and his men continued down the road, and Shimei kept pace with them on a nearby hillside, cursing as he went and throwing stones at David and tossing dust into the air. The king and all who were with him grew weary along the way, so they rested when they reached the Jordan River. I try to picture a lot of things when I'm reading them, especially when I'm taking time and focusing on just a couple of verses. There was a lot of people walking with David. It wasn't just David, and he was running for his life from his son. A little backstory. Just trying to overthrow David, and I think there was a lot of assumptions, a lot of misconceptions, a lot of things you see and we deal with in our everyday life is somebody, whether it's a bias or somebody has a preconceived idea, or I mean, if you were even in the first service this morning, Dale was talking about Harry and his paranoia. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can sway our opinions or our thoughts about why did that happen the way that did, or why is that person acting the way they are, or why. There's a lot of different things that can come into play when we need to be searching out, obviously, the truth, which is, I mean, we're always going to find that in the Word. But reliable sources, I think, is another thing. And getting all the facts and trying to enter into situations and different things without jumping to conclusions. Because I'm real quick. Hold on. Without knowing everything about the whole situation or whatever it is, try to bite my tongue until I try to figure out what everything is, but we're definitely all human. How many uses can you think of vinegar and baking soda? The mixture can be used for cleaning, unclogging drains, washing clothes, and your hair, and making a volcano for the science fair. Put these two substances together, and you have a truly explosive combination. What kind of human interactions can you think of that react like vinegar and baking soda? The fallout of these are often very messy and even destructive. What tends to lead to such explosive reactions between people? Unfortunately, it is often based on falsehood, hearsay, assumption, pride, and more. None of which is proper for a disciple of Christ. The bad guy in today's study exploded for all the wrong reasons. But a good guy responded as a man after God's own heart would and should. What can you learn from their story to keep yourself from volatile exchanges? We're going to turn to 2 Samuel 19, verses 15 through 23. That's the guy I was trying to get to read it instead of me, so y'all didn't have to hear me the whole time. I want to find a Bible version that has James Earl Jones. That's what I'm doing. There's all kinds of crazy ones out there, the commentaries and the readings. And there's one of Elvis, I think. Y'all love the King. 2 Samuel chapter 19, a couple pages over, verses 15 through 23. Amen. So the king started back to Jerusalem, and when he arrived at the Jordan River, the people of Judah came to Gilgal to meet him and escort him across the river. Shimei, son of Gera, the man from Bahuriam and Benjamin, hurried across with the men of Judah to welcome King David. 1,000 other men from the tribe of Benjamin were with him, including Ziba, the chief servant of the house of Saul, and Ziba's 15 sons and 20 servants. They rushed down to the Jordan to meet the king. They crossed the shallows of the Jordan to bring the king's household across the river, helping him in every way they could. As the king was about to cross the river, Shimei fell down before him. "My lord the king, please forgive me," he pleaded. "Forget the terrible thing your servant did when you left Jerusalem. May the king put it out of his mind. I know how much I sinned. That is why I have come here today, the very first person in all Israel to greet my lord the king." Then Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, said, "Shimei should die, for he cursed the Lord's anointed king." "Who asked your opinion, you sons of Zeruiah?" David exclaimed. "Why have you become my adversary today? This is not a day for execution, but for celebration. Today I am once again the king of Israel." Then turning to Shimei, David vowed, "Your life will be spared." In between those two stories, from 2 Samuel 16 to 19, there's a lot. And I have read through all of it to kind of get an idea of what, because it's a pretty big jump going from you're running from me and this guy's walking on this hill, and I try to picture this valley, and this guy's on the other side. I'd be pretty upset if somebody was walking that, whatever, cussing me and throwing rocks at me and my escape party, I guess you could say. They're trying to run away from his son. So where we're at now, to this jump of Absalom trying to murder David. Well, Absalom ends up getting killed. David's going back home to take his seat on the throne. And I don't know what or why or what changed in there, and it's trying to gain understanding of it. But Shimei realized somewhere along this way, man, I messed up. This guy's king again, and it was pretty. It doesn't ever make it really clear what the punishment is for cursing the king, but his servant is, hey, we need to kill this guy. You know, he's like, I'm gonna go cut his head off. So it's pretty clear that it's capital punishment for cursing the king. At that time, he thought he was good because Absalom was going to take over. Well, that ended up not happening. Funny how God has a sense of humor and all that. Definitely has his hand on all over it. So when I read this, I thought about all the times I've jumped to conclusions. And maybe I'm the only one that ever has. But it's tough. It's hard because there's a lot of emotions and feelings involved, and it's usually whether you felt like it was a betrayal or whatever the situation is. I'm pretty sure we've all been in something along those lines. But the way David approached it, I think we can all learn something from that. Has anybody here ever been in a situation where they jumped to conclusions? Just making trouble isn't the only one. Let's get nervous.
Well, a lot of times you think you have all the facts, so you do jump into conclusions real quick. You know, you just hear it from one person, and hear what's his name again? Shimei. You were blaming David instantly because he felt that he had something to do with Saul getting killed. He was blaming him, but in reality, you know, Saul just, gave him the option, and he took his own life. You know, I mean, he laid on the sword or whatever. But Shimei didn't know all that, you know. But then you look at David. What David was doing, I don't think he wanted to kill his son, and that's why he took off. But Shimei didn't know all the facts, so he's like, that's why he was throwing rocks at him and doing all kinds of things, thinking he was the one, and thinking that his son was going to back him up. So not having the facts, you know, me assuming, oh, my buddy here has got my back, and my other buddy here has got my back, and those two actually know the story. And when I get the story, you know, like you said here, he's backtracking now. He goes, and I'm apologizing because, you know, here, man, you went against the key.
I think he had gathered some more of the facts
Yes.
before he fell down at the river at the king's feet. And there was a couple different things that had happened that led to him feeling that way. He felt like David just went in there and murdered Saul and took over, you know. But there was a lot of different events that took place that could have been misconceived or whatever it was. But the reason David's running, and from the best I can gather, is, this is after he had this affair with Bathsheba. He sent Uriah to the front lines to get killed. So I feel like this is God's way of, hey, nobody's above punishment or my wrath or my justice, you know. And it really puts a lot of things into perspective. There is a lot of backstory here. There's a lot of different things that are going on throughout this to kind of tie it all together. And I had a copy of this book. I'm glad I went and hand delivered a Christmas card and had to fight my uncle for his book.
Can I say
Yes, sir.
something interesting here is Shimei was from the descendants of Saul. It was his family. So I know that David was running from Absalom, his son. First, he had killed his other son. So, and they get together, and for 3 years, he didn't, he got his own man, and he started doing his own thing, and he wanted to take over the kingdom. And he did to most of the Israelites were with Absalom. So they were running. But here, most of the time is when a king takes over, they just usually destroy all the descendants of the last king. So there's no predecessor take over. So Shimei here was cussing David because what he said was true. David was a murderer.
Yeah.
And he spilled a lot of blood. But something that David took from the story of Nabal and Abigail, he didn't take vengeance. He understood that. What he learned from his mistake when he did with Nabal, he was going to go to kill everybody. So this time, he says, nope, I'm going to back off, let God deal with it. And so he just lets it go. And when me and my wife were talking, I said, remember when Jesus was on the cross? He said, forgive them, because they don't know what they're doing. I mean, I told my wife, I don't know how I would react somebody was throwing stones at me. Personally, if I were going to go and say, okay, I'm going to get even with you, I'm going to go back. But he didn't, because he learned that God was on his side, and the kingdom was his. Nobody was going to take it away from him. Not even this Shimei was cursing him. So we was true, but he was saying, and David was taking it and saying, okay, I'm going to take it, but maybe it's God is telling me what Shimei is saying is true. It's not a lie.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take it because it's true. And sometimes the truth sometimes hurts us because somebody tells you the truth and you don't want to listen to it. And David listened to it and went on like nothing was going on. And he just blocked it out of his mind and just kept going with the soldiers, even though they wanted to kill Shimei. But he deserved to be killed because, he was cursing the king. David never got vengeance with Saul. Saul wanted to kill David for a long time, and David never killed Saul because he was the anointed one. He was a king. And Shimei should have respected David as being the king, but he didn't.
So sin always has its cost. And for David, the price was steep. Perhaps it was along this road of despair that David started to develop the deep thoughts and feelings he shared in Psalm 51. David's desperation for God to restore some sort of peace in his life is readily evident in the following excerpt from this powerful psalm. And this is Psalm 51, verses 8 through 12 and verse 14. It says, make me to hear joy and gladness. Let the bones which you have broken rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my iniquities. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and sustain with me a willing spirit. Deliver me from blood guiltiness. O God, the God of my salvation, then my tongue will joyfully sing of your righteousness. David's crying out. I mean, he really is. He knows he's done wrong. He knows that he's in a bad place, and he knows that, hey, things aren't looking very good. God, I need you. I think we saw a prime example of a repentant heart this morning at the end of the service. God's there for us regardless. He's there with open arms, whatever it is you've done. And that's, I had mentioned communion talk this morning, and there's no stones. It's not about judging people. That's God's job. We're real quick. I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm real quick. Two, I want to judge somebody. My first impression, or I want to, what they did was no good. I'm not any better. I'm not, by no means. Jesus died for my sins too. David had brought up a good point on Saturday that no matter what it is, God's always there. You know, he's always there with open arms, whatever it is. If you could turn to 1 Kings chapter 2. We're going to look at verses 8 through 9. Amen. Hey, we're learning YouVersion. No, I'm patient. I got
Yeah.
that's a great thing. It's a great tool. No, because I love it. I love it because you can flip through versions right away. Boom. I want
Yeah.
NLV, New King James. There's one called Pigeon that's from Hawaii, and my brother showed me that work the other day, and it is a broken language, and it's the Bible translated in Pigeon. It's crazy. Yeah,
Pigeon English.
Pigeon.
Pigeon English.
Pigeon English.
Pigeon,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a pretty crazy version. Yeah, there's some out there that are. The message remix is like kind of a hood translation, I guess is the best way I can put it.
Why you need that, man?
Because it's felt it come out a little bit. No, it really is. It's crazy. First time I saw that, I was in prison, and that one blew my mind.
Wow.
But just be careful with some of the versions that are out there. I mean, that's why it's nice to have them to jump through and to go back. And if you can do with the those and thous and these of the King James, I mean, it's solid. ESV is good. But I like to look at a couple different to kind of get an idea of what's this really trying to say. Or I wish I could read Greek or Aramaic. Like I say, what does it really say? Because all these translations we have now. All right. 1 Kings chapter 2, verses 8 through 9. This guy pops up again. And remember Shimei, son of Gera, the man from Bahurium in Benjamin? He cursed me with a terrible curse as I was fleeing to Mahanaim. When he came down to meet me at the Jordan River, I swore by the Lord that I would not kill him. But that oath does not make him innocent. You are a wise man, and you will know how to arrange a bloody death for him. At this point, David's talking to Solomon. Solomon's about to take over. David's on his last leg. He's on his deathbed. Hey, you know what to do with him. So from whatever changed in David, whether it was from a political standpoint or whether it was why Shimei didn't die way before this, or whether God had, whatever changed in David's heart, this is like one of his dying requests. At some point, kill this guy, is how I interpreted it. I mean, you know what to do with him. He cursed me. I don't know if David held on to this. I mean, it's kind of to, hey, was this bitterness that he held in his heart towards this guy? He remembered that day he was walking and he had to swallow his pride because, like you said, David, he knew he was wrong. He knew he had killed people, you know? So this kind of got my wheels spinning.
I think to me is that he knew that Shimei was going to be a threat to Solomon. He left him alive. That's why he said, in your wisdom, you do what you had to do to him. So David knew that this guy was not a good guy. And so Solomon was going to be king now. So he wanted Solomon's kingdom to go smoothly without dealing with this guy. So I think that's what David's telling Solomon. Be careful with this guy. You know, you do what you do to him. I don't think if David had anything in his heart and had that in his heart, he said, okay, that's what I want from him. I want him dead. He could have done that.
He would have been dead a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Well, the thing is that David had an oath with Saul not to kill
That
his,
was Jonathan.
you know. So he told him, you know, so he was honoring. So that's what I look at both situations. David was honoring God for not just going over there and chopping his head off because he learned from this. But then the same thing, he was honoring what he did with Saul, saying, you know what, okay, I'll leave him alone. But I also think that he was talking to his son, telling his son, don't trust this guy.
Yeah.
your wisdom, you're a wise person. Don't trust him. You know, you do what you have to do, but I'll just let you know. So there's where David's oath ended, you know, and then Solomon can do whatever he wanted to do.
I fulfilled my obligation.
Yeah, so I got you, Dad, you know, but so that's a whole different story.
So we're gonna go over a couple verses. We're gonna start in verse 36. We're still in 1 Kings chapter 2. We're gonna go down to verse 36. I'm gonna read 36 through 46. And amen. You can get there. Amen. The head shake is the amen this morning.
I know that paper had Second Kings, but it was First Kings.
We're in 1 Kings.
Yeah, but that paper had.
Well, I remember you told me.
Yeah.
So then I'm looking, I'm like getting ready the other day, a couple days ago, and I go to 2 Kings, I'm like, man, there's no 36. Oh yeah, they told me.
Yeah.
They told me. They warned me about this.
Yeah.
Tell you that, like Santi, I forgot to take my memory pills. It says, the king sent for Shimei and told him, build a house here in Jerusalem and live there. But don't step outside the city to go anywhere else. On the day you so much as cross the Kidron Valley, you will surely die, and your blood will be on your own head. Shimei replied, your sentence is fair. I will do whatever my lord the king commands. So Shimei lived in Jerusalem for a long time. But 3 years later, 2 of Shimei's slaves ran away to King Achish of Mach of Gath. When Shimei learned where they were, he saddled his donkey and went to Gath to search for them. When he found them, he brought them back to Jerusalem. Solomon heard that Shimei had left Jerusalem and had gone to Gath and returned. So the king sent for Shimei and demanded, didn't I make you swear by the Lord and warn you not to go anywhere else, or you would surely die? And you replied, the sentence is fair. I will do as you say. Then why haven't you kept your oath to the Lord and obeyed my command? The king also said to Shimei, you certainly remember all the wicked things you did to my father, David. May the Lord now bring that evil on your own head. But may I, King Solomon, receive the Lord's blessings, and may one of David's descendants always sit on his throne in the presence of the Lord. Then at the king's command, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, took Shimei outside and killed him. So the kingdom was now firmly in Solomon's grasp and grip. Never had made the connection of this Shimei I got. Like I said, I just blew through, would go through the Old Testament, checking my boxes. Oh yeah, I read the Bible, and I got an opportunity to really deep dive into this. And I think it's important that we recognize these stories, because when you see the way Jesus taught, he always referred back to the Old Testament. To the, I definitely didn't have the Torah memorized by 11. You come to church, so I was being drugged by my ear at 17, but always shot back to the Old Testament, and that's the way Jesus taught, because that's the books they had. There wasn't a New Testament; it was about him. So I think it's extremely important to spend some time and getting familiar with some of these stories and kind of picking apart the little stories in here. It says, when have you or someone you know well jumped to a conclusion about a particular situation that you later learned was incorrect? This is generally describe what happened. I don't know if we want to get into details of some of our mess, but why is it so easy to do this? What do y'all think? Why is it so easy to jump to a rash conclusion or a
The human side of us.
It's easier?
Yeah, you can blame somebody else if they want.
For sure.
I have, and I got the conclusion, then figured out it wasn't what I thought it wasn't, went back and asked for forgiveness. And the person didn't want to forgive me. So I did my part.
Yeah.
Of doing, ask for forgiveness instead of just letting it go. So we, as humans, we do sometimes jump to conclusions without having all the facts, or at that spur of the moment, Satan gets into us and we do it.
I think that moment when you realize you were wrong.
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta go apologize. Gotta eat our pride. And that's hard. That's one of the hardest things to do. Some people never do, and it tears apart relationships, families. I mean, things that God intended for good. I mean, just one irrational decision or jumping to conclusions without knowing all the facts, I guess is what.
I think a lot of times you want to jump into that conclusion if you don't like that person, or that person does evil to other people. You just kind of just wait for something to happen. You say, "Yep, they did it. Yep, he's the one that did it." And go after that person, and it's just your human instincts to blame. And again, the Bible tells you, take that 2x4 out of your own eye, before you start, accusing it. And to me, this story is more. To me, I feel it's more about loyalty. The loyalty that with God, He's always going to be there for you, when you want Him or not. Or all your decisions that you make, He's there to guide you through it, and it's just your choice to accept it. And that's when you said, "Oh man, I gotta go apologize." That's where the Lord just said, "Okay, I just showed you the right answer, or I showed you what really happened, because you got all the facts, but I was right here, it could have came to me right off the back, and then let's pray about it before you reacting to it,
It says, when have you been the brunt of someone's inaccurate information about you? Jumping to conclusions. So there's two sides to this. There definitely is. You got to look at the other side, and it hurts. It hurts when there's, hey, you can't tell that person nothing, especially when they're mad. It says, what is your natural inclination at such times? What are you inclined to do when you're the brunt end of it?
I was in a situation like that, and the first thing that came to my mind was, he doesn't like me. With work, but they had a bigger badge than I had, so I had to take it, but that was my first thing, but what I learned, we became great friends. He just wanted to get me better, and but to me it was, this guy he's always coming after me. He's always saying something about me, and we're great friends now. But that's my first instinct. If somebody's attacking me, they don't like me. A lot of things go through your mind. They're jealous of you. They don't like what you have, or they want
You want to try to put the puzzle together without the facts, and I think that's what gets us in trouble on both ends of it. Is the assumptions, the hearsay, the emotions. Jesus said, the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. These are what defile a person. But eating with unwashed hands does not defile them. Do some personal reflection. Do Jesus' words describe you? What specifically will you do this week to experience a heart change? Jesus is talking about to the Pharisees here. He's trying to call out his apostles about, hey, they didn't wash their hands. That's what you're worried about? They didn't wash their hands? Golly. I just want to share one more thing for you. I know everybody's, no restaurants open. Everybody's in a hurry. Speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. Ephesians 4:15. People say they value frank and honest speech, but how can that actually be a problem? What does it look like to be honest in your conversations with others and also follow the instructions given in Ephesians 4:15? The last thing that really caught my attention in this study says, it's out of Colossians 4:6. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. In this book, it says, the author Mike O'Neill states, it says, Shimei threw stones. David threw himself on the mercy of God. David refused to allow Shimei's thoughtless words to have any undue influence on him. Will you do the same when Shimei comes your way? One will come your way. We're all going to deal with Shimei's. We're all, that's part of life. Especially being a Christian, the persecution or whatever it is, you're trying to do what's right. You're going to be under attack. Satan hates us. That's the truth of it. He hates us gathering. He hates everything about this. Just try to keep that in mind. Just remember Shimei. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. Thank y'all for the participation. Thank you for the opportunity y'all gave me to come up here and talk about good lessons from bad guys. I told them this guy looks like me on the cover of this book. My hands are tattooed. Not proud of that either, but they don't come off apparently. They don't wash off with Blue Dawn and hot water. Thank you guys, man.
Thank you.
2020 was a roller coaster, but we made it. It's not over yet. We haven't made it. We're almost there.
Earthquake or something.
I love all y'all. I'm praying for everybody. Y'all want to take a picture of this list. Be mindful of praying for everybody.
Thank you.